Imagine being in the shoes of Judas Iscariot, faced with the decision to betray Jesus. What could have driven such a choice? Was it disappointment, fear, or something else? Let's explore the possible motivations behind one of the most infamous acts in history. Judas Iscariot is known as the disciple who betrayed Jesus, leading to his crucifixion. But was this betrayal purely out of malice, or were there deeper, more complex reasons behind his actions? Understanding the context of Judas's decision helps us explore what might lead someone to make such a serious choice. Today we'll consider some possible motivations. What if we could step into Judas's mind? What thoughts or emotions might have led him to betray someone he once followed? First, let's think about disappointment in Jesus. Maybe Judas expected Jesus to be a political or military leader who would free Israel from Roman rule. But instead, he saw a teacher who preached humility and love for enemies. This stark contrast could have deeply disappointed Judas, leading him to betray Jesus out of frustration and unmet hopes. Another possibility is that Judas had his own strategy. He might have believed that by betraying Jesus, he could push him into revealing his true power and taking control as the Messiah. Judas might have thought that things would turn out differently if he forced Jesus' hand, believing his plan was better. Let's also consider the influence of money. Judas was in charge of the money bag, and it's believed he stole from it because he felt he deserved more for his efforts. Judas might have seen himself as one of the most talented disciples and thought he wasn't getting enough compensation for his work with Jesus. This mindset could have led him to betray Jesus, thinking it was only fair to take what he felt he was owed. His strategy might have been to force Jesus to act in a way that Judas thought was right. Next, consider the influence of leaders and the environment. Judas may have been swayed by pressure from religious authorities or the temptation of money. Perhaps fear or greed clouded his judgment, leading to a choice he would later regret. Social pressure and external circumstances often push people into actions they wouldn't otherwise consider. Finally, think about the lack of awareness of the consequences. It's possible Judas didn't fully grasp the seriousness of his actions. Maybe he didn't believe his betrayal would lead to Jesus' death, or underestimated the impact of what he was doing. Each of these scenarios presents different reasons why Judas might have betrayed Jesus. Whether it was disappointment, the desire to force change, the influence of money or leaders, or a lack of awareness, each factor shows how complex human decision-making can be, especially in difficult situations. But let's take this a step further. Imagine not just Judas, but any of us faced with a similar moral dilemma. How do external and internal factors influence our decisions when the stakes are high? Could we make the same choice under different circumstances? This question isn't just about Judas's motives, it's about human nature itself. Now, what if Judas believed that by betraying Jesus, he could save many others or bring about a greater good? This twist makes the betrayal seem like a tragic necessity, a choice where every option leads to suffering, yet one must be chosen. But let's be clear, this isn't about excusing Judas's actions. Instead, it's a powerful reminder that we, too, might unknowingly make choices that distance us from Jesus. Are we becoming little Judases when we prioritize our own plans over his? So, let's take a moment to reflect. In what ways might we be betraying Jesus in our own lives? Is it through our thoughts, our actions, or even by chasing trends that draw us away from him? Are we allowing worldly distractions to take precedence over our faith? Let's examine our motives and ask ourselves if we're investing our energy in following our own paths, or if we're truly committed to walking in Jesus' footsteps.